insecurity in South Asia. Its refusal to comply by international law, the UN Charter, is a source for insecurity in South Asia. It's lowering the threshold for conflict with potentially nuclear armed conflict is the source of insecurity in South Asia. Its weaponization of water is a source of insecurity in South Asia. The only rational path forward, the only viable path forward, none of the issues I mentioned here today, be it terrorism, be it Kashmir, can be solved through conflict. They can only be solved through dialogue. So we look to the international community to look beyond geopolitics, look beyond their partisan views on India in general, and all advocate for peace. I thank you. I'm going to sort of wind up my opening question here so I have more time to take your questions.
Posing a question, if I may, to you, Bhutto, and that is, I mean, the request, the plea, the proposition is for dialogue. But is there, as it were, a peace plan? Do you have a peace plan in mind, or is it all dependent upon, as it were, that initial contact, that opening of a door?
More than a plea, this is a commitment made to Pakistan by the international community, or by those key stakeholders that were involved in helping us achieve this ceasefire. Pakistan maintains that we agreed to this ceasefire at a time of the conflict where we had the military upper hand. We only did so with the view that going forward, there would be, at a neutral location, a dialogue on, to quote Secretary Rubio, on all friction points. As far as our peace, sort of a dialogue plan or peace plan is concerned, the three issues that I outlined in my opening statement, Kashmir, terrorism, and water, those are the significant issues that we feel that within the context of a comprehensive dialogue must be addressed in order for us to move towards peace.
Thank you very much. The floor is open. Sir, can you introduce yourself, say who you are, and pose the question?
Good afternoon to Bilawal Bhutto Zardari and the visiting Pakistani delegates. My name is Kabir Sabah.
Thank you. I think that's a good suggestion. We will, going forward, engage more of the business community. Trade is absolutely one of the peace dividends that would not only benefit India and Pakistan, but also the rest of the world that engages there economically. India and Pakistan at the moment do not trade with one another. Just the direct trade between our two countries would unlock such potential and pave the way for even more prosperity for the people of India and the people of Pakistan. We also, as a result of this conflict, no longer allow transit trade. That would benefit not only India and Pakistan, but all those who stand to benefit.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Farid Qureshi. I'm from DIY News. My question is from Bilawal Bhutto Zardari.
I think that Pakistan has always played the role of a bridge. We don't seek to be divisive, and we don't benefit from conflict. There are other countries in the region who benefit from conflict and sort of perpetuate that environment. Pakistan would like to be a bridge, as we were in the past, between the United States and China. We have economic cooperation with both countries. We have the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, obviously, which is, I'm sure you're all aware of. Also, the US is our biggest trading partner. So we are engaged with both countries, but we would like to see ourselves as a bridge rather than a divisive force.
Thank you, sir, for your presentation. My name is Rahul Rancho.
Thank you. As to terrorism, obviously there's multiple forms of terrorism. There's indigenous terrorism, there's cross-border terrorism. On cross-border terrorism, Pakistan has been very successful in countering cross-border terrorism. Since 2000, as far as the India, groups of concern to India, that's the best way to put it. Against those groups, Pakistan has taken extensive action. And this action has been endorsed by the FATF. When I was the foreign minister of Pakistan, Pakistan was on the FATF grey list. And by the end of our term, we've managed to shift from the FATF to the grey list, to the FATF white list, which means the international community endorses the actions that Pakistan took against said groups. We filed 2,645 terrorism financing cases, arrested 2,727 individuals, 549 persons have been convicted. Over 2,000 individuals and more than 80 organizations have been proscribed under the Anti-Terrorism Act. LETE, LEM are dysfunctional, inactive, and have not claimed any act of terrorism within Pakistan or beyond. As far as indigenous terrorism, I believe that given, as I mentioned the issue of Kashmir in my opening remarks, India has to come to the understanding that not all terrorism is cross-border. And when people from within the country that you control, or the borders in which you control, conduct an act of terror, it is your own national security failure that in such a highly militarized zone, after having gone to war, you still to this day cannot tell the world who the terrorists were. I mean, in this digital satellite world where every picture is produced within 30 seconds, for 2 months now, they've not been able to share with their own people, let alone with Pakistan or the international community, the names of the terrorists involved in this attack. And I'm pretty sure I know why. That's because these individuals are most likely from Indian-occupied Kashmir. They've been living under a state of consistent suppression and oppression by the Indian government, which has increased drastically post-2019. When you're living in that environment, unfortunately, people resist, people react. Then they provide the cannon fodder for terrorist organizations to use for their nefarious designs. If the Indian government were able to share with us any proof that these individuals came from Pakistan, who they were, where they crossed, where they came from, of course we'd be happy to take action, but they just haven't done that. Because the truth of the matter is, whether it is this terrorist incident or the attack in 2019, both are orchestrated by indigenous terrorism within Kashmir. The second question was Indus Water Treaty?
On talks, the conditional or unconditional.
So you're absolutely right to note that Pakistan's past position used to be that until they reverse the changes that they made in 2019, Pakistan is not really willing to talk. We would still seek for India to reverse their unilateral, illegal steps. But before this conflict broke out, it was actually here in the United Kingdom at our High Commission that the Foreign Minister of Pakistan publicly in a press conference stated that they were keen to engage in dialogue with India. And also to refer to an early question, he was talking about trade, that Pakistan wanted to trade with India. So, and within the context of this conflict, or post this conflict, it's not conditional talks. That I think they're important to have those talks as long as they're in the framework of a comprehensive dialogue which allows us to address all issues. We can't have talks that are just one-item agenda talks. It has to be within a framework. So the framework so you can put this, I suppose, as a condition, is that we want to talk comprehensively over all issues of concern to both parties, or all friction points, to quote Marco Rubio. And in this water treaty, we can talk water, but only within the confines of the Indus Water Treaty itself. And then absolutely, we're happy to engage with any concern that India has, but what India has done is illegal. It doesn't have any basis in the treaty itself. It doesn't have any basis in international law. They've unilaterally allowed unilaterally announced they're going to cut off our water, and as you say, the enemy shouldn't be the people of Pakistan. But as India has demonstrated over the course of the 5-day war and slightly before, post this terrorist attack, that Mr. Modi and Mr. Modi's enemy is all the people of Pakistan. In reaction to this terrorist attack, he suspended the Indus Water Treaty, which is cutting off the water supply of each and every single Pakistani. In reaction to this terrorist attack, they claim to have hit so-called terrorist infrastructure. Just as they can't tell you to this day which terrorists were involved in the terrorist attack in Indian-occupied Kashmir, they can't to this day tell you which terrorists they hit in Pakistan, if they were supposedly targeting our terrorist infrastructure. The truth is they didn't. They hit the innocent men, women, and children of Pakistan. So India's government is painting all Muslims with the same brush. They demonize an entire community. But using the wolf whistle of terrorism, they demonize the Muslims in India, they demonize the Muslims in Indian-occupied Kashmir, and they demonize the Muslims in Pakistan.
My question is the leadership of India. My question.
That's quite an expansive question that covers quite a lot of topics. As far as India's role in financing, facilitating terrorism within Pakistan and beyond, Pakistan is, I was going to say presented proof, but before that, is a joint communique between Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and Pakistani Prime Minister Yusuf Raza Gilani. In that communique, the Indian government is on record about their role facilitating these groups within Balochistan, supporting terrorism within Balochistan, and it was our understanding that we would move together to combating terrorist groups of each other's concern. Unfortunately, we haven't managed that, and what we've seen is an increase in terrorism within Pakistan, particularly post the fall of Kabul. Now there are more of these groups free, which are being heavily financed by the Indian apparatus, and they're conducting terrorist attacks within Pakistan. They're using weapons that were left behind by NATO in Afghanistan to carry out these terrorist attacks. Obviously, Kulbhushan Yadav, an Indian Army officer being caught within Balochistan, again speaks to them being involved in this activity. We absolutely insist that India stops using terrorism as sort of a toolkit of their policy, of their foreign policy, whether it's the context within Pakistan or what their government has been doing in Canada, in Australia, in the United States, where they finance criminal gangs to target Sikh activists. They're then victimized, subject to extortion, and assassinated. That's not just a Pakistani claim. Obviously, this activity takes place in our country, but the Canadian government has exactly the same stance. So India is increasingly using the cover and the legitimacy provided by the world under this so-called net security provider label to conduct act like a rogue state.
And I work as a political advisor on diplomatic affairs. So my question, I have two questions. One with the former foreign.
I think it's obvious that India has been saying no from day one. They said no to an investigation into an impartial international investigation into the terrorist attack that took place. They say no to mediation by President Trump, and they say no to dialogue with Pakistan. Well, you can't always have what you want. And India didn't, just as India had to accept the ceasefire as a result of intervention, we're looking to the international community to play their role, to encourage a dialogue for us to achieve peace. We're under no delusions. It's not like sort of peace happens in a day. Or, this is a mission, an effort that we continue to advocate for because it's something we believe in passionately. We refuse to damn the 1.7 billion people of the subcontinent to perpetual war. We fought perpetual war generation after generation over Kashmir. More recently, we've been fighting over terrorism. Now, the Indian government would like to damn future generations to perpetual war over water. We advocate for peace for our own people and for the people of India. As far as the Indus Water Treaty is concerned, absolutely, I would strongly encourage the Pakistani government to challenge India's decisions at the appropriate forums. I'm sure we are doing that. As we speak, as you know, I'm abroad here speaking to you, so the details I can get back to you, but absolutely we have to challenge it within the legitimate forums, raise our voice internationally, and we expect from the international community to raise this issue across the board, no matter what their position on India, Pakistan, vis-a-vis terror, vis-a-vis Kashmir. This is a humanitarian issue. This is the question of the water supply for 240 million people. I'm sure that this is not a position that India will be able to sustain. They don't have the moral high ground. This is the lowest of the low ground. I'd like to see the Indian government try to perpetuate this position that we're going to shut off Pakistan's water supply in perpetuity. They're going to be unable to do so. If they continue to do so, then they'll lose this facade, and it is just a facade, of a great superpower acting in a responsible way. The mask will come off with the Modi government in the way it's come off for the Muslims of India, in the way it's come off for the people of Pakistan eventually. If they're going to continue to insist on cutting off the water supply for 240 million people, then the international community will see I was going to say butcher of a trap, I suppose I'm not meant to. We'll see Mr. Modi for who he is.
From Azad and New TV. Mr. Bilawal, my question is for you.
I think it's a question of not Pakistan not getting support for itself, but Pakistan getting support for peace. And I think that in that sense, absolutely, we'll get support for peace from the United States, we get support for peace from the UK. As part of the peace process, as I've already explained, I believe that the Kashmir cause is fundamental, not only because it is the root cause and the leftover agenda of partition, but also because the actions of the Indian government in Indian-occupied Kashmir is providing the cannon fodder for terrorist attacks like the one that took place, and particularly since we're blamed for these terrorist attacks, we have an increased interest in them, including Kashmir on the agenda.
नाज़रीन लंदन में
Bilawal Bhutto Zardari think tank Institute of Strategic